West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte
concluded, stated it very professionally, that the prosecutor should be prosecuted. District attorneys are respect brave.
So it was a devastating day for Donald Trump at his criminal trial on Monday. The prosecution rested after Michael Cohen wrapped up on cross-examination. There was redirect examination where Michael Cohen was provided with a photograph from the prosecutor showing that Michael Cohen's testimony on cross-examination was accurate when he said, no, I believe in that October 24th, 2016 phone call. Donald Trump was there with Keith Schiller, his bodyguard at that time. Sure enough, there's a photograph from C-SPAN that the prosecutors were able to get in. The prosecution then rested. The defense called first like a paralegal from Donald Trump's lawyer's law firm, very bizarre. And then they called Robert Costello. By all the reporting, all my sources say that Trump's lawyers did not want to call Robert Costello, this MAGA lawyer who kind of weaseled his way into the MAGA world by reaching out to Michael Cohen and then has since become like a MAGA personality since then. But Trump insisted that Costello take the stand. During Costello's testimony, there was a number of areas where the prosecution objected. The objections were sustained. And then Costello, this MAGA witness, and I think my brother Jordy said it so perfect last night on the podcast, Costello behaved on the stand the way the corporate media made it seem like Michael Cohen was going to behave. Whereas Michael Cohen was respectful, eye contact, honest with the jury, even where he had to admit to things he did wrong in the past, Costello acted contemptuous. He behaved in a juvenile manner, and the judge almost held him in contempt. The judge had to clear out the courtroom because Costello started making noises at the judge during his testimony when Trump's lawyer called him to the stand. Emil Boeb, Trump's lawyer, starts questioning Costello, and Costello starts making noises and like grinning and staring down the judge. Here's specifically what went down. Then I want to show you what Donald Trump did when he exited the courtroom, and then he started it looked like he was actually going to cry. And I'm not just saying, Trump was about to cry. It looked like he was about to be in tears. So here's what went down. Tyler McBrien was inside the courtroom. There were more objections that were sustained while Costello was up there. Then Costello goes, geez, into the mic, sounding exasperated. After Costello said geez into the mic, Justice Merchan said, what did you just say? And then Costello says, strike it. Just strike it, Judge. And then the judge is like, excuse me? And then an email is shown to Costello. There are more objections that are sustained. Costello then dramatically blows out a puff of air, sounding exhausted. So then Justice Mershon excuses the jury, and Justice Mershon says, Mr. Costello, I'd like to discuss proper decorum in my courtroom as a witness on the stand. If you don't like my ruling, you don't say geez, and you don't say strike it, because I'm the only one who can do that. And if you don't like my ruling, you don't give me a side eye. Then you had Costello started staring down the judge, giving him a dirty look, and Justice Mershon said, are you staring me down right now? Clear out the courtroom. So the courtroom gets cleared because now Trump's own witness poses a security risk in the trial. Security risk to the judge by engaging in these threatening, contemptuous gestures and behavior. Caitlin Collins then reports on what went down, and we now know what went down from numerous other sources. What happened inside the courtroom when the press was kicked out, as Judge Mershon admonished Robert Costello. Justice Mershon said, Sir, your conduct is contemptuous right now. I'm putting you on notice that your conduct is contemptuous. If you try to stare me down one more time, I will remove you from the stand. I will strike his entire testimony. Do you understand me? And Trump's lawyer said, yes, Judge, I understand. Then Costello said, can I say something, Judge? No, this is not a conversation, Justice Mershon said. Then Donald Trump exited, and this is what he said. He then called Justice Mershon a tyrant. Watch this.
So thank you very much. You saw what we saw. That was an incredible display. I've never seen anything like it in my life. A tyrant. And everyone's talking about it. This is what we have. We have an acting judge, appointed judge by Democrats, by the club. And they're keeping now, I guess this is our fourth week, soon to be our fifth week. Not campaigning, but you saw what happened, what just took place in that court.
Then Donald Trump, in that clip I showed with you earlier, says the prosecutor should be prosecuted. Many people have said that. Here, play this clip.
Yeah, that's right. You can read that. I can't read it because I'm not allowed to say it. A CNN legal commentator. The prosecutor misled this jury. So there is a case to be made because 5 people have stated it very professionally that the prosecutor should be prosecuted. District attorney Ernest Hemingway should be prosecuted because he knew when he submitted his case all about the lies, and therefore he's committed a crime. Many people have said that they should turn this around. He knew.
Donald Trump then complains about having to sit in a freezing ice box that he calls. And by the way, all of our sources right now and all other public reporting says the courtroom is warm. Now, the courtroom is not cold, but here he goes and whines that that he's forced to be in an ice box and how unfair this is. Here, play this clip.
To gain the respect back, we have to, either the appellate court has to step in, something has to happen. Think of it, the Republican Party, one of the two great parties, nominate somebody to be their candidate, and that candidate now has been sitting here for almost 5 weeks in a freezing cold ice box, listening to this stuff, no crime.
Donald Trump then talks about the motion to dismiss, which is actually a directed verdict motion that was filed by his lawyers. Watch this.
This took place in that court, and hopefully the motion to dismiss this trial will go through, because this trial is a disaster for our country. It's a disaster for New York State, New York City.
Donald Trump then, at least in my opinion, clearly violates the gag order by attacking Michael Cohen. And I think what the prosecution is going to do, because they want to wrap this case up, they want this case to go to a verdict. The prosecution's rested. They want this case to go to verdict. I just think they're going to use Trump's gag order violations in the sentencing phase if and when Donald Trump is convicted. But here's Donald Trump attacking Michael Cohen and accusing Michael Cohen, a witness of committing larceny. Play this clip.
Have not made him plead guilty to larceny because you know what's taking place. I mean, you saw that. I won't even mention it because remember, I have a gag order. I'm not supposed to be talking about certain things. And so be very careful. But you saw what happened. And this is CNN mentioning it, which it is, larceny, which it is. And you know what they're talking about because there was an admittance. The money I won't say that. It's the money so I won't say that. In fact, you're going to have to get this one because I can't read it. I've been gagged from reading this. But it's a vicious statement by a respected person at CNN, Ellie Honig. So you'll have to read that one yourself because I've been gagged. Let's see, it turns out now that Trump was, that's right. You can read that. I can't read it because I'm not allowed to say it.
Here's Donald Trump talking about the witness on the stand, Robert Costello, who was acting contemptuous. Again, another violation of the gag order, talking about a witness on the stand. Play this clip.
But the best there is, he can't testify, not being allowed to testify. And you saw what happened to a highly respected lawyer today, Bob Costello. Wow. I've never seen anything like that. Highly respected. But remember,
more on Donald Trump here complaining and calling the courtroom a freezing icebox, which again, it's not at all. Play this clip.
And then he goes on to things I'm not allowed to talk about. Can you believe it? Here I am, vice presidential. We have 15 people that I'm supposed to be meeting about who's going to be our vice president. But I'm stuck in the refrigerator all day. The presidential nominee, I'm down here by an acting judge. He's acting. And you know who appointed him? Democrats in a clubhouse.
He then whines and says that the perimeter around the courthouse is like an armed camp and you can't get near the courthouse. And again, we've showed you now in videos, dozens of videos, you can get to the courthouse. The public can get there, just like the courtroom's no longer a freezing icebox. You can get in front of the courthouse. Here, play this clip.
We have an armed camp outside. I mean, if you're a civilian, you can't get within 3 blocks of this courthouse. All you have is police. And they're in blue and they look good to me, but I'll tell you what, you don't see any civilians outside. I never saw so many iron gates as I've seen the last 5 weeks. Andy McCarthy.
By the way, you know who was in front of the courthouse? Donald Trump had his red tie brigade. There he had his MAGA Republican Congress members who he dressed up, all wearing the same red tie. Yet Trump dresses them all up. You'll see it right here. They were there, and it was just people heckling them, and rightfully so. And again, we had nothing to do with this. Play this clip.
We have an armed camp outside. I mean, if you're a civilian, you can't get within 3 blocks of this courthouse. All you have is police. And they're in blue and they look good to me, but I'll tell you what, you don't see any civilians outside. I never saw so many iron gates as I've seen the last 5 weeks. Andy McCarthy.
Did I mention that we have nothing to do with this at all? And by the way, just so you see how unfortunate is such an understatement, how harmful the propaganda is from Fox. Fox is acting like the way Robert Costello behaved is what normally happens at a trial. And this is why I say this isn't a political thing. And I know in addition to progressives and liberals who watch this, we have independents, we have conservatives, mainstream conservatives. One of the things that I pride myself on with this network is we'll have everybody from supporters of Bernie Sanders to Nikki Haley and DeSantis and everybody in between, right? From AOC to Senator Manchin, you know, whoever. Like, the bottom line, whatever your political belief is, whether you're progressive, whether you're liberal, whether you're independent, whether you're conservative, whether you're mainstream conservative, whatever it is, my whole thing is this behavior is not okay. This behavior is not normal. And that's why I think we have such a broad tent of people just saying, look, I may disagree with you here. I may disagree with you. I may strongly disagree with you here and there. But when Fox says that the behavior of Robert Costello is normal, we know we're being played. We know that propaganda is filthy. Play this clip.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, from what I can tell, I'm reading from my phone now. The judge said, I'd like to discuss proper decorum in my courtroom directly to Costello when he asked people to leave the courtroom. He said, listen to this, Neil. I don't want you to give me side eye and don't roll your eyes.
Whoa.
So, yeah, this is what I'm reading now. I can't be sure that this is what was said, but this is one of the accounts of someone who was in the courtroom. Interesting that it sounds like the judge is trying to quash the testimony. He doesn't like his animation. He doesn't like what Costello, his reaction. I mean, it's a normal reaction when you're constantly getting told objection sustained and Costello can't get a regular train of thought out. And you know what? I agree with Mercedes Callan. When you're in a courtroom and you're constantly objecting or you're facing constant objections, a jury looks at that. They don't like it. They say, what is happening here? Why can't we just hear the story? Let it come out. Why is the prosecution objecting so heavily to this man's testimony? The prosecution's objections can backfire.
We'll leave it at that. You could judge for yourself. If you think that type of behavior is acceptable in a courtroom, if that's how adults are supposed to be behaving, if Donald Trump's behavior is something that you think is appropriate, I think it's despicable. I think it's despicable.
It is Tuesday, the 21st of May of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner, the English bulldog, is our snoozing sous chef. Precious, the little Yorkie, is our door girl, and she will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. A small scant dash, a mere pinch of hot smoked Hungarian paprika will make all the difference in the world. Okay. All right, that's all of that stinger we're going to get out there. Tagline this. Hey, how many side-eye stare-downs have you been in today, huh? Don't do that. Don't do that with a judge. Yeah, it is not normal. I know the MAGA world thinks, oh, it's just a small thing. I mean, when we want to intimidate people, we usually show up at their house at 3 o'clock in the morning with a couple hundred bikers and Klieg lights. They've done that. Maybe not a couple hundred, but a few dozen it feels like a couple hundred. Especially with all those hogs a-roaring. Yes, indeed. Gunner, the English bulldog, our snoozing sous chef, came awake and went to the front door because apparently one of the neighbors is walking their dogs, and how dare they, according to him. All right, well, it's exercise. He gets his exercise. The back door's open. He can go out there and harass him that way. He doesn't need me. So, all sorts of stuff going on. We're having quite a spring here as we slip into summer. And now that I've said that, I've totally jinxed it. Yep. And, we're actually expecting a little bit of rain tonight. That is something new. I've been following the precipitation forecast by barometric pressure and whatnot. And, we may get some measurable rain overnight. That would be nice because, as you know, water from the sky carries minerals. And all the plants love it. All of them. And a few insects, too. At least the ones that want to bug us. That's why they're bugs. Yeah. Well, The dogs are now a-barking, and I didn't close the mothership studio door. So if that's leaking through, I apologize. They are doing what they want to do. Yeah, we're freewheeling here now. Alrighty. Well, lots going on in the world besides side-eye stare-downs. We have, apparently the ICC wants to extend criminal charges against Bibi and Hamas, and I'm all for that. But I suppose in the bigger diplomatic world of whatever, maybe I don't know. I think that it's well deserved, and I don't know. Some people say, well, that's meddling too much in, the Israeli politics. I'm all, is it? I mean, think about how Bibi came back. It wasn't like it was, on the up and up. I mean, here's the guy that tried to destroy his own Supreme Court because they kept ruling against him. Sound familiar? And this was a Supreme Court, by and large, that Bibi had installed himself, and it was even too much for them. Sound familiar? And we have a Supreme Court here in these United States who saw what happened over there, and it's like a little, little test tube. What can happen in the only democracy in the Middle East? Well, see what happened. So, we better vote. We better come out in mass numbers because they, once again, are only able to manipulate the margins, and that's what they hope for. That's why they got somebody like RFK in there, except they're so stupid. They think RFK is going to be, taking votes from us. Give me a break. So, what are we going to do about it? I will still maintain vote in mass numbers. And as we know, today is primary day in many states, and we'll see how things shake out here in our little neck of the woods. Everybody thinks Oregon is like hippie land. I wish. Jeez. Even then, when you think about it, all the hippies that were living on the communes back in the day, some of them turned into Nazis. Go figure. Jeez. Anyway, am I concerned? Yeah, I'm concerned about the general because with all the help that this right-wing Nazi-ification across the globe seems like it's really interconnected. You even got like little kiss-ass kickers from Kansas City. How you like them K's? Giving an Opus Dei speech. And it turns out the little fucker's Opus Dei. He's a Leonard Leo guy. They've even got like kiss-ass kickers from Kansas City out there spreading the good news. And the good news is apparently goose-stepping for Jesus. I don't know. Jesus was not a Nazi. You might argue that the Romans were. I'm just saying. Oh boy. Well, since we have quite a bit of news in the world, we probably should just give you a rundown on what we do have in store for you as we begin in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy on this fine Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. Well, we already went over quite long about another Trump crybaby meltdown. What a whiner. What a whole party of whiners. Goose-stepping whiners. Was this what it was like in Nazi Germany in the 20s and people liked this? Holy hell. Okay. On the rest of the menu, this is really good news, I guess, with cyber attacks against water utilities across the country becoming more frequent and more severe. The Environmental Protection Agency issued an enforcement alert urging water systems to take immediate actions to protect the nation's drinking water. Minnesota lawmakers failed to pass a state equal rights amendment in their constitution as the 2024 legislative session came to an acrimonious end. Well, good. At least we got that. And former Arizona Republican Party Chair Kelly Ward and at least 11 other people are set to be arraigned today on conspiracy, forgery, and fraud charges stemming from their fake elector scheme. Well, there is some good news after all. Well, after the break, we moved to the chef's table where a British court ruled Julian Assange can appeal an extradition order to the U.S. on espionage charges. We'll get him. And China's Ministry of Commerce announced sanctions against Boeing and 2 other defense companies for arms sales to Taiwan. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, to the right of the page is the chat room link, and the chat room is monitored by Kelly Lincoln, who, along with Ricky, I pretty much believe will both be at Netroots Nation this year in 49 days. So stay tuned for that. And thank you, Kelly, for everything that you do, and also to you as well, Ricky. Thanks. Also, for you folks out there in radio listening land, if you would take a gander, as you would, across to the left at the bottom or near the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, there is the Patreon page. And you know what to do because, your help helps us pay the bills. So thank you for your help, and please do. We need the help. If you would like to follow Netroots Radio on the social medias, it's very easy. Just go to at Netroots Radio in most cases. In other cases, it's just simply Netroots Radio. Tom takes care of those, and we thank Tom for doing that as well. And you can also follow me on the social medias at Justice Putnam. In most cases, otherwise it's Justice Putnam. And I post the show notes and links, diaries, on Daily Codes 10 minutes before showtime, so you have quick access by following my social media feeds to get to those actual diaries. Sometimes the Daily Codes are a little hard to navigate, just letting you know. But you can get to those show notes and links very quickly by following my social media feeds, and then you can read the actual whole articles by the actual reporters. That's right. Sometimes we edit, and when I mean edit, sometimes we add, sometimes we subtract, but pretty much we're trying to tell a story of truth. That's right. Justice and the American way. Got that all in. Okay. Also, if you would like to follow the show, such as it is on Twitter, I know they said it's x.com. Give me a break. Man, all we wanted was an edit button, and they give us a Nazi takeover of the world. Jeez, okay. Anyway, you can follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West and pick up podcasts by way of Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, YouTube, iTunes, even Audible. We are now on Audible. And wherever podcasts can be found, because they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. everywhere. All right. And rate them too, because I think that will, people who are in advertising know you never name your company in the bottom of the alphabet. You put it at the top. So West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, hey. If you rate us, Mel, that'll get us up in the algorithm. I guess. Maybe. All right, let us now tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and it's out of the Associated Press by Michael Phillis and Matthew Daly. Cyber attacks against water utilities across the country are becoming more frequent and more severe. The Environmental Protection Agency warned yesterday, Monday, as it issued an enforcement alert urging water systems to take immediate actions to protect the nation's drinking water. About 70% of utilities inspected by federal officials over the last year violated standards meant to prevent breaches or other intrusions, the agency said. Officials urged even small water systems to improve protections against hacks. Recent cyber attacks by groups affiliated with Russia and Iran have targeted smaller communities. Some water systems are falling short in basic ways, the alert said, including failure to change default passwords. Yeah, don't make your password turn on the water. Okay? At least get a number in there. Turn on the water for me. Okay. Or cut off system access to former employees. That's always nice. Because water utilities often rely on computer software to operate treatment plants and distribution systems. Protecting information technology and process controls is crucial, the EPA said. Possible impacts of cyber attacks include interruptions to water treatment and storage, damage to pumps and valves, and alteration of chemical levels to hazardous amounts. With Abigail Adams' intonation of What About the Ladies intonating within my cranium, we now go to this next offering from the Associated Press by Steve Karanowski. Minnesota lawmakers failed to pass a state equal rights amendment that would have enshrined protections for abortion and LGBTQ plus rights in the state constitution as the 2024 legislative session came to an acrimonious end. The Minnesota ERA was one of the biggest casualties of partisan rancor, lengthy debates, and filibusters that were fueled by the continued participation of a Democratic senator who was arrested on a burglary charge. Democrats, who hold just a one-vote majority in the Senate, needed her vote to pass any legislation that lacked bipartisan support. A compromise to legalize sports betting also failed to cross the finish line by the midnight Sunday deadline. So did a public infrastructure borrowing package known as a bonding bill that was supposed to be the centerpiece of the session. Neither could pass without at least some GOP support, but Republicans who said they were frozen out were unwilling to supply the votes needed for the 60% supermajorities required for new debt unless Democrats dropped the Equal Rights Amendment. Yeah, what about the ladies? Kick them in the teeth. And enough Democrats were opposed to sports betting so that some GOP votes were essential. Something for the ladies? Then you gotta let us gamble all their money away. The ERA would have prohibited discrimination against anyone on the basis of race, color, national origin, ancestry, disability, or sex, including gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Authors opted not to include the word abortion, which critics called a deceptive move. The text, instead, would have protected the right to be making and effectuating the decisions about all matters relating to one's own pregnancy or decision whether to become or remain pregnant. Well, I like that. But the amendment's authors didn't unveil the language until 3 weeks before adjournment. Anti-abortion and conservative religious groups mobilized their supporters against it, and Republican lawmakers slammed on the brakes. It took the House around 15 hours of debate, spread over several days, to pass it, and time ran out on Sunday night before Senate leaders could bring it to a vote. The Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Former Arizona Republican Party Chair Kelly Ward and at least 11 other people are set to be arraigned today in a Phoenix courtroom on conspiracy, forgery, and fraud charges stemming from their roles in an effort to overturn Trump's 2020 election loss in Arizona to Joe Biden. Well, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani also is scheduled to be arraigned, though it's unclear whether he'll seek a postponement. Arizona authorities tried unsuccessfully over several weeks to serve Giuliani a notice of the indictment against him, but he was finally served Friday night as he was walking to a car after his 80th birthday celebration. "Here's your present, Rudy. Happy birthday." Arizona authorities unveiled the felony charges last month against Republicans who submitted a document to Congress falsely declaring Trump a Republican had won Arizona. The defendants include 5 lawyers connected to the former president and 2 former Trump aides. Joe Biden, a Democrat, I think he's a Democratic, won Arizona by more than 10,000 votes, barely squeaked by. The indictment alleges that Ward, a former state senator who led the GOP in Arizona from 2019 until 2023, organized the fake electors and urged then Vice President Mike Pence, "Hey, Mike Pence," to declare them to be the state's true electors. It says Ward failed to withdraw her vote as a fake elector, even though no legal challenges changed the outcome of the presidential race in Arizona. Last week, attorney John Eastman, who devised a strategy to persuade Congress not to certify the election, was the first defendant in the case to be arraigned, pleading not guilty to the charges. Trump himself was not charged in the Arizona case, but was referred to as an unindicted co-conspirator. Arizona is the 4th state where allies of Trump have been charged with using false or unproven claims about fraud related to the election. The 11 people who claim to be Arizona's Republican electors met in Phoenix on December 14th of 2020 to sign a certificate saying that they were duly elected and qualified electors and asserting that Trump carried the state. A 1-minute video of the signing ceremony was posted on social media by the Arizona Republican Party at the time. The document was later sent to Congress and the National Archives, where it was ignored. And here we are. All right, that brings us to our break, because that's where we are. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This program is presented by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Welcome to A Cup of Health with CDC, a weekly feature of the MMWR, the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Dooling. From a very young age, we're encouraged to eat fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, many Americans are not getting the message. Dr. Seung-Hee Lee Kwon is with CDC's National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. She's joining us today to discuss the importance of eating enough fruits and vegetables. Welcome to the show, Seung-Hee.
Thank you for having me.
Seung-Hee, what is the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
The federal guidelines recommend that adults consume at least 1.5 cups to 2 cups of fruit and 2 to 3 cups of vegetables each day. This is for adults who get less than 30 minutes of physical activity a day. Adults who are more physically active need more calories and thus should be eating more fruits and vegetables. 1 cup is about 12 strawberries or 1 large tomato.
How many people consume the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables?
We found that very few adults are getting enough fruits and vegetables. Just 12% are eating the recommended amount of fruits, and less than 1 in 10 eat enough vegetables. And consumption is lower among men, young adults, and adults living in poverty.
Why is eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables so important?
Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help with 3 things. 1, it can reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and deaths, such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and even obesity. It can also add important nutrients that are commonly missing in Americans' diet. And it can help with weight management if adults consume fruits and vegetables instead of other calorie-dense foods.
How can we meet the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables?
Try to fill half of your plate with fruits or vegetables at each meal or every eating occasion. Making fruits and vegetables the focal point of your meal will help you meet your recommendations. For example, recent studies have shown that adults get most of their fruit during breakfast and snacks. So you can try adding berries to your morning oatmeal or grab a piece of fresh fruit as an afternoon snack. For vegetables, most adults eat them at dinner, so try adding more into your lunch by adding a side salad or packing a snack of baby carrots or grape tomatoes.
Are canned or frozen products just as good as fresh?
All forms of fruits and vegetables count towards meeting the recommendations. For the most health benefits, make sure that the fruits and vegetables you consume have a limited amount of salt, butter, sugar, or creamy sauces. When selecting canned fruits, choose the ones with lowest sugars. And for canned or frozen vegetables, choose those lower in sodium.
Where can listeners get more information about eating a healthy diet?
Listeners can go to cdc.gov/nutrition or choosemyplate.gov.
Thanks, Seung-Hee. I've been talking today with Seung-Hee Lee Kwon about the importance of eating a healthy diet. Eating a diet rich in fruits and vegetables can help reduce the risk of many leading causes of illness and death and add important nutrients to your diet. Make sure you're eating enough. Until next time, be well. This is Dr. Kathleen Dooling for A Cup of Health with CDC. For the most accurate health information, visit cdc.gov or call 1-800-CDC-INFO.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes? Their age? The way they speak? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for
summer break because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a single father of 2 who works 3
part-time jobs and still can't put enough food on the table?
Or maybe a mother who cleans offices at night,
hoping to find meeting leftovers to take home to her hungry family.
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time
landing a job and getting back on his feet.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Hi, it's Tom. Could we humbly suggest your donation to netrootsradio.com? All we've got to run this 24-hour powerhouse of progressive resistance radio is what comes out of our own wallets. And you are our biggest donor. And it doesn't take much, $3, $5. Just go to the bottom of our netrootsradio.com page and hit our secure donate button. Heck, you can even make a recurring contribution. And you'll get a wondiferous pair of Netroots radio stickers for application to your backpack, your bumper sticker, or your banjo. Well, it's up to you which backpack you want to put it on. So donate what you'd like at the bottom of our netrootsradio.com's homepage. Because you are our biggest donor. netrootsradio.com. Together, we are Resistance Radio.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by and for the people. How's this for cruel irony? Arizona anti-voter legislators are proposing voters pass their legislative constitutional ballot question this November to make it harder for voters to get a citizen ballot initiative on the ballot. Currently, an Arizona citizen ballot question requires statewide signatures from 10% of registered voters for a state statute and 15% for a constitutional amendment. But in 2023, the Arizona legislature passed the Arizona Distribution Requirement for Initiatives Amendment. This ballot measure changes the rules for citizen ballot questions, requiring for a state statute that signatures come from 10% of the number of voters who voted in the previous governor's race, and requiring they come from each legislative district in the state. For constitutional amendments, it's 15% from each district. Arizona pro-voter groups say that such a requirement adds huge costs by requiring hundreds more signature gatherers to reach into Arizona's rural legislative districts with fewer voters and commerce centers. Another 2024 legislative ballot measure aims to raise the threshold to pass a constitutional amendment to 60%. And even if advocates gather enough signatures, opponents are using a new financial intimidation tactic to discourage ballot questions. More on that tomorrow. Find more at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1984. That was the day Toledo auto workers at AP Parts Plant battled police in an attempt to save their union. The battle unfolded on the 50th anniversary of the historic Toledo Auto Light Strike. 400 members of UAW Local 14 had been on strike against the parts plant since May 2nd. The company imposed a final offer that stripped workers of their seniority rights, ended 30 and out pensions, and cut wages by 40%. They then laid off 175 workers and targeted the rest with a campaign of harassment and discipline. Workers walked off the job when the NLRB dismissed the union's unfair labor practice charges. Local newspapers printed the names and addresses of striking workers in a blatant attempt to blacklist them from area employers. Strikers had it with AP's union-busting tactics, which included paying the hated private goon squad Knuckleus Security $45,000 a week to escort scabs into the plant. The final straw came with an injunction restricting the number of pickets. In an act of solidarity, area unions came together for a show of union strength. Thousands of UAW people from area auto plants joined with striking OCAW refinery workers at the main gate to challenge the new injunction. Police in full riot gear charged the crowd with tear gas, clubs, and pellet guns, beating and arresting dozens of strikers. A pitched battle ensued between workers and police that lasted up to 18 hours until the company was finally forced to eject scabs from the plant. While workers were jubilant, the strike served as a warning about the future of small parts plants. The strike dragged on for months, ending in deep concessions and outsourcing. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
Ah, this is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. We always begin weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 53 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs around 80, with sunny to partly cloudy skies throughout the day, winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and then increasing clouds with showers arriving overnight, as I mentioned earlier, lows in the low to mid 50s with winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and it looks like we could get some measurable rain overnight. And we will have partly cloudy skies tomorrow with highs around 70, winds out of the northwest at a brisk 10 to 15 miles per hour. Well, currently it looks like grass pollen is very high here in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 20 parts per million, and around here that means people feel like it's okay to make the air stink with their stinky garbage they like to burn. Don't ask me why. Anyway, coupled with that, the daytime UV index is very high at level 8, so slather on the SPF. Barometric pressure currently is holding steady at 30.19 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles, and relative humidity is at 80%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. The weather station that's personally owned by a person near the city center of London is registering 58 degrees with rain. Paris is 67 and mostly cloudy with a thunderstorm advisory. Rome is 74 and partly cloudy, also with a thunderstorm advisory. Bagram is 71 and clear. Hong Kong is 75 and fair. Tokyo is 69 degrees and cloudy. Melbourne, Victoria, Australia is 48 degrees and mostly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 59 and fair. Chicago, Illinois is 70 degrees and fair with a small craft advisory on that big old lake. And New York, New York is a pleasant 70 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. Brian Melly and Jill Lawless of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange can appeal an extradition order to the United States on espionage charges, a London court ruled, a decision likely to further drag out an already long legal saga. High Court judges Victoria Sharp and Jeremy Johnson ruled for Assange after his lawyers argued that the U.S. government provided blatantly inadequate assurances that he would have the same free speech protections as an American citizen if extradited from Britain. Really? Assange, age 52, I gotta say he looks much older, was or has been indicted on 17 espionage charges and one charge of computer misuse over his website's publication of a trove of classified U.S. documents almost 15 years ago. So, hundreds of supporters cheered and applauded outside the court as news of the ruling reached them from inside the Royal Courts of Justice. No relation. Assange's wife, Stella, said the U.S. had tried to put lipstick on a pig, but the judges did not buy it. Lipstick on a pig? She said the U.S. should read the situation and drop the case. Yeah, we read it, and the guy's a fucking espionage. He sold it to the Russians. F him. The Australian computer expert has spent the last 5 years in a British high-security prison after taking refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for 7 years and smelling up so bad they had to get people in hazmat suits to clean it, and I am not kidding. American prosecutors allege that Assange encouraged and helped U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning to steal diplomatic cables and military files that WikiLeaks published and left Chelsea Manning out to dry. Assange's lawyers have argued he was a journalist who exposed U.S. military wrongdoings in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he had no choice but to sell them to Russia. Or did he just give it to him? The U.S. government says Assange's actions went way beyond those of a journalist, gathering information, amounting to an attempt to solicit, steal, and indiscriminately publish classified government documents. Hard-working staff at the Associated Press World Desk brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Tarrytown Chowder Tuesdays. China's Ministry of Commerce announced sanctions against Boeing and two other defense companies yesterday, Monday, for arms sales to Taiwan on the day of Taiwan's presidential inauguration. The move is the latest in a series of sanctions Beijing has announced in recent years against defense companies for weapons sales to Taiwan, a self-ruled island that China considers as part of its own territory, as if we didn't know. China's Ministry of Commerce placed Boeing's Defense Space and Security Unit, General Atomics Aeronautical Systems, and General Dynamics Land Systems on what is called an unreliable entities list, forbidding their further investment in China, in addition to travel bans on senior management for the companies. Could they do that to Twitter, please? Please! In April, China froze assets of General Atomics Aeronautical Systems and General Dynamic Land Systems held within China. Corporate filings show General Dynamics operates a half-dozen Gulfstream and jet aviation services in China, which remain heavily reliant on foreign aerospace technology, even as it attempts to build its own presence in the field. Well, maybe these sanctions should be imposed by our own government on these defense contractors, selling our technology to you-know-who. And I don't mean Taiwan. Nope. Okay, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day. But you do know Netroots Radio broadcasts on, and we will meet up here tomorrow for, yes, Smothered Benedict Wednesdays. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day and all night for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here tomorrow, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.